This is episode 7 of the Brand Authority Podcast. Today, we're talking about how to measure the impact social media has on your business. Stay tuned.
This is the Brand Authority Podcast, the show for growth-driven leaders who want to win more customers, increase revenue, and gain the competitive edge. Broadcasting from sunny Los Angeles, here's your host, Rebekah Radice.
Well, hello and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to the Brand Authority Podcast. Today is one of my favorite topics because no matter the size of the business that I talk to, this topic is such a huge challenge. Just think about it. When was the last time you tracked the effectiveness of social media? So everything from your latest tweet to maybe the positive response you got on a Facebook post. Now, even if you did, and I'm not judging if you didn't, do you know if it had any positive effect on your actual business? My guess is you're in the same boat so many businesses are in, which is to pull that data together, to go find it. Maybe it's sitting in a Google Doc, maybe a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet. It is next to impossible to sift through it, make any sense out of it, and truly understand how to use that data to move the needle on your business. So today, no judgment involved whatsoever. We are going to put some actionable steps into place. I'm going to share with you ways that you can truly wrap your arms and your head around all of the social data that is going to help you make important decisions and begin to track and measure the impact your social media efforts are having on your business. So first things first. Number 1, you need to define your success and set measurable goals. I know you hear that all the time. Set your goals, set your goals, set your goals, but nobody actually tells you what those goals look like. Now, here's the problem with this. If you don't know what success looks like for your company, how in the world can you measure it or know that you've actually achieved it? Answer's pretty simple. You can't. But as I said, I think a big portion of the problem is we preach that you need to have goals in place, but we don't actually tell you what those need to look like. So let's take a look at some ideas, some thoughts around not only what your goals could be, but what metrics you actually need to track. So as I said, square one is defining what success really looks like to you. So you're going to develop your own definition of success. It is not what I would call a Me Too model where you're going out and you're looking at your competition and you're saying, oh, wow, that looks fantastic. I think I'm going to try it. Or, oh, wow, I know that this would work for my business. So you're just Me Tooing everything and not actually implementing things that are designed specifically for your business. We're going to stay clear of that Me Too model. Instead, we're going to look at what does success truly look like for your company. So what are you trying to achieve and how does social media complement your marketing strategy? Whatever the case, you're going to want to get everybody on board. So, okay, I'm assuming you have a team, even if it's just your assistant, if it's your marketing manager, if it's your marketing team, you have got to get everybody on board and really understanding what your vision is. Because if you can't get that point across, if you can't truly get them to see what you're seeing, then there's no way you can move forward in unison. Now, you've no doubt been part of a meeting where there's somebody maybe at the head of the table and they are doing all of the speaking. They're just basically dictating all of their thoughts or ideas, and everybody else is sitting there probably bored out of their mind, not getting a word in edgewise. And it could be that they were never asked. It could be that there is that feeling, that vibe within those meetings that you're not there to interact. You're not there there to contribute. You're just there to be told. And the problem with this is, well, there's a lot of problems with this, obviously, but the biggest part of this challenge is you're not allowing your team to feel a part of the process, to really contribute to what is going on within the company, within your strategy. And because of that, there is no buy-in. They haven't actually agreed that, hey, this is the best course of action. We've tested this. We had a hypothesis. We put systems in place, maybe a process, and we've been following and then tracking our results. Instead, you're just there going, yep, okay, got it. And then boom, you're off and you're doing exactly what you're told to do, but you really have no idea why you're doing that. So unless your company exists as a dictatorship, you cannot run your social media, your marketing, any other business decisions that way. Because if you don't define what success looks like together as a group, as a unit, you're quickly going to fall apart. Plus, you'll never know when to bake that very important victory cake. I am very much about celebrating your wins as a team, being able to high five, pat each other on the back, and really celebrate in your success. And there's no way to do that if you're not all on the same page moving forward. So, once you know what success looks like for your company, you need to set those measurable goals. So your social media goals, as I talked about, they can feel a little foggy. They can feel a little grainy, as if you've never really been able to get to the core of what those look like for your company and why they should matter to your company. So let's talk about what some of those goals, those higher overarching, I guess, would be the objectives. So your objectives are your big, bold, or I guess go big or go home type of goals. And then you're going to put those key results into place. So what is it that when at the end of that campaign, you look back and you say, yep, we absolutely nailed that, or we came in, 25% above what we anticipated. So you're very clear in what you're trying to achieve, and then you're very specific in how you're going about actually achieving those objectives on a daily basis. So let's take a look at what some of those specific goals might look like. So let's just say you are a local pet store and you're opening a new location in another city. Now, this is another city you have never been in, never opened a store there. You've done all your research. You're getting ready to actually launch that store. Let's think about what you need to use social media for. Maybe it's reach a new market or a group of consumers. Maybe it's to establish your company as a dominant player in that market. So lots of different reasons that you might use social media. But again, you're getting very clear on how you're going to use it and then why you're going to use it. And then what is that big, bold, audacious goal, that big, hairy, audacious goal, I guess I should say, BHAG, that you are going to go after. And you're going to use social media to propel yourself forward. Now, another example could be that you're a startup and you have a productivity app. So this app actually helps people get more done in less time, something that I think we're all looking for every single day. So in that, you might use social media to generate leads. Maybe you'd use it to build brand awareness. So you want to get your new app in front of a larger group of people that have never heard of your app before. Maybe it's that you want to drive traffic over to iTunes or to Android. Maybe you want to improve customer support. So lots of different reasons that you might use social media. Now, of course, these are pretty high level. You're going to want to bring these down to where you're actually speaking specifically to this objective. So it could be that you're not just going to generate leads, because what is that? That's very ambiguous, doesn't give you any real clear definition of what you're looking to achieve. Instead, you're looking to generate leads, and not just any old leads, but a specific number of leads, and you could even add on in a specific amount of time. So the goal here is to get very detailed in what exactly it is that you are trying to achieve. Next up, or number 2, is tracking the right metrics. So I told you we'd talk about specifically what goals look like, and now let's talk about metrics and what metrics truly matter to your business, because I think we all know likes, shares, they can feel great, right? You can want to run around and high five your team members because one of your posts went viral and just took off, and oh my gosh, can you believe how many impressions, how many likes, how much engagement we got off of that post? But I'm willing to bet that you haven't really determined what success looks like, as we talked about, and why that engagement might actually matter to your business. So let's make sure that everything you're tracking is actually helping you move closer towards your goals, towards those objectives every single day. Because if they're not, they're probably what are called vanity metrics. And those are the ones that they might make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, make you feel really good for a short amount of time, but they don't actually help you formulate a conclusion or formulate a decision that will positively impact your bottom line. Vanity metrics can actually be pretty dangerous because they can take you really far off track from what you're actually trying to achieve. So let me give you an example of what that kind of looks like. Let's say you are gaining followers and you're gaining them pretty fast. You may feel as though a marketing campaign that you just launched is effective, that it's doing well, it's taken off. But what you don't know is where those followers are actually coming from. You don't know if any of those followers have actually converted. So maybe they just clicked follow, but did they click on the link? Did they actually go over to your website or your landing page? And did they take action upon anything you've asked them to do? So within any of those campaigns, if you're not tracking every interaction, every action that your audience is taking, then more than likely you are just tracking vanity metrics. And while it's important to gain visibility, driving real results, that should always be your number one goal. That's why we're going to focus and we're going to talk about what those actionable metrics are, because those are the ones, as I said, that help you make critical decisions. So first and foremost, actionable metrics always tie to specific and repeatable tasks that you can improve upon, and they tie to your specific objectives. They consist of data that you can use to improve the success of those repeatable tasks. And I say repeatable because they're things that you're going to have to do over and over and over again, because we know that inconsistency comes success, that doing those things over and over again that build momentum are those things that are actually going to generate results. It's when we have a haphazard situation where we do something one day, but then we don't do it the next, and then maybe we do it the following week, but we don't follow up with it the next, week and weeks to come. So there's no consistency whatsoever. So instead, we're going to track things and we're going to work on things that are repeatable, that we're able to do over and time again. And what they're going to help with is creating a scenario where it's the difference between that feeling of, hey, my campaign, it's actually succeeding, it's working, and knowing without a shadow of a doubt that what actions you've taken are producing those results, or the best results that you're receiving. So let's put this into real terms. Let's say you launch a book and you watch as sales slowly start to climb over the next week. Then out of nowhere, you have this huge spike. You're looking at Amazon and you're like, what in the world? There is this huge spike in sales. Now, if you haven't tracked the URL or the source of every purchase, there's absolutely no way you can determine what caused that spike. And it's the difference between what is called correlation and causation. And it's not understanding the difference between the two and how they impact your social media results. So with correlation, there's a relationship between two variables. There are both positive and negative correlations. The problem with both is that without accurate data, without data that you're actually tracking, without those systems and processes in place that are creating consistency, it's very easy to make assumptions. So here's some examples for you of what those positive and those negative correlations look like. The more time you spend running on a treadmill, the more calories you will burn. Taller people have larger shoe sizes and shorter people have smaller shoe sizes. Or a student who has too many absences has a decrease in grades. Or as weather gets cooler, air conditioning costs decrease. But hang on a second. What if that student who had a lot of absences, who missed out on a lot of days of school, actually spent time with a tutor to catch up? If his grades still decreased, could we still assume it was because he hadn't given enough time to his studies? Probably not. So what you see here is that we're working with not necessarily inaccurate data, but an inaccurate assumption. And you can see with those inaccurate assumptions where you can start to run into trouble if you haven't created a baseline. This is what you want to achieve and what your desired outcome actually looks like. And then you're putting those metrics in place to track every action, every interaction, and every data point. Now that's correlation, so let's talk about causation. This is also known as cause and effect. And of course, we've talked long about this, I think, throughout our lives, even outside of the marketing world. But in the marketing world, your outcome, in this case, we're going to go back to that spike in sales. It appears to have been caused by an event or an action. So you launched a book, you started to promote it, maybe you're promoting all over social media. You even had influencers that were sharing on your behalf, and you got a whole lot of free publicity because of that. So now what? It's very simple to assume that all of the above caused that spike in sales. But how do you really know that that's the case if you haven't tracked every one of those actions and track them separately? So taking all of that into consideration, you're probably asking yourself, okay, so now that I get correlation, causation, now that I understand I've got to track the right metrics, what do those actually look like? Well, while there is no universal answer to that question, which is why you can Google that and you will get a bazillion different answers. There's a lot of different reasons, but obviously no business is the same. One thing is very clear. You need to stay completely away from vanity metrics, so anything that makes you feel good without solid facts, and avoid making gut-related assumptions. Now, don't get me wrong. Before I get people upset that you can't go with your gut, I totally believe there is a time and a place for gut decisions, gut feelings, but not when it comes to the success or the failure of your business. Why in the world would you want to put the success or failure of your business in the hands of anything but a data-backed decision? All right, so let's get to the basic but very important metrics that every business, no matter your industry, needs to track. The first and most important for social media is engagement. Now, engagement is a long-term interaction with your fans. It's the number of public likes, the comments, the shares your content or your posts receive. Although engagement doesn't necessarily translate to sales, it does give you all of the actionable information that we've been talking about that you need to move your social media followers along their social journey. So if you're not familiar with that term, it's taking people from awareness, where they're just getting to know you, into nurture, where you're nurturing that relationship, taking them a little bit deeper into a better decision-making process, until finally activation, where they can make that educated decision about your business. So measure the rate at which your audience engages with your content, either by liking, commenting, sharing, maybe it's retweeting, maybe if you're on Pinterest, it's pinning. And to do this, you're going to need to calculate an average number of conversations that are happening per post and per follower. So to do this, you're going to start by tracking your starting point. And you're not only going to take down metrics that are going to help you later down the road be able to compare against where you are now, but you're also going to be able to start to really make some determinations about your growth. So you're going to start to gain new insight into your strengths, into your weaknesses, what's working, what's not. And by doing this, you're understanding what you're already doing really well, but also what needs some work and what you can do to better formulate those goals, those objectives as you go along. And more importantly, you're able to see trends. So start to forecast what is going to work based off of what's already worked in the past. And then you can start to use engagement as building blocks, where you're starting to recreate that content that's worked well in the past. And that's going to continue to drive that momentum. So you can increase frequency on stuff that works and start to scale back or get rid of stuff that isn't working. Next, you're going to measure conversions, because engagement, it's fantastic. We all love it. But what you ultimately want is customers, right? I'd say that's pretty much what everybody wants. You want people that are clicking on your content, that are subscribing to your emails to actually take that next step and become a customer or a client, or turn into a sale of your book or your product. So lots of different outcomes dependent on your business. But that sale is really what we're pushing towards. So that is why it's so important to measure your conversions. This is where you can see if the social media strategies you're implementing are truly turning into those new customers or sales. And one of the best ways to track conversions is through Google Analytics. You can create within Google Analytics what's called an attribution report. And here you can track how many conversions are coming from each of your social channels. So is it coming from Facebook? Is it coming from Twitter? Is it coming from Pinterest? And I will tell you that it's generally a very good idea to also keep an eye or keep track on visits and leads. So you can really see what percentage of visits are converting into leads, and then what leads are actually converting into customers. And this is going to matter a bunch in my next tip, which is quantifying the value. So if I asked you what each client means to your bottom line, or what each client was actually costing you, would you have any idea? You might have a rough estimate of how much they're costing you. But if you've got a whole lot of social media content going on out there, and it's not just organic, but maybe you're running ads behind it, There's a lot that plays into quantifying the actual value and identifying what the cost to generate that lead truly is. So you're going to determine how much that tweet cost you, or how much that Facebook post cost you, how much that time replying to mentions is costing your company, because the key to success and to really understanding what all of this means to your bottom line is to know the cost of time spent versus the actual reality. So what are those results received? And last but not least, let's talk about the elephant in the room, always that big, topic that nobody seems to want to touch, which is ROI. And ROI, if you're not familiar, stands for return on an investment. And this is going to help you determine whether the time, the effort, and the money we've been talking about that you're putting into your social media is actually paying off. Basically, it demonstrates profitability to you and to your company. So a positive ROI is what? It's a sign of an effective social media marketing strategy, while a negative one, well, it's going to call for some adjustment, maybe some change. Sometimes it calls for some radical change. And within that, I would caution you. So a lot of times what I see happen is it takes you, your team, some time to put together your latest marketing campaign. And oh my gosh, this is the greatest marketing campaign you've ever put together. Well, what happens is you become clouded. Your judgment is clouded. So never get so married to a campaign or an idea that you're not willing to let go of it to right the ship. And I'll just share with you a story from a few years ago where we had started a campaign that included the launch of a new Twitter chat. And if you haven't launched a Twitter chat before, they can be pretty time consuming, believe it or not. There's a lot that goes into managing just that 1 hour or 30 minutes or whatever it is that you spend on Twitter with a group of individuals on a weekly basis. So for our team, each week we would have team members from the marketing team show up, and we do a whole lot of work in advance where we're putting together the Q&A. We were bringing in guests every single week, so we were preparing for this guest. We were getting all of the artwork, so our design team was busy, not to mention all of the promotion that would go into it. And we would get excited every week as we saw that engagement and those impressions starting to skyrocket. And it felt, our gut assumptions were that it was going well, going very well every single week. Well, as we started to look at the data over the coming months and over the next year, what we realized was that the Twitter chat hadn't actually translated into any positive ROI. We weren't gaining any market share. We weren't earning any new customers, and we couldn't actually attribute any positive momentum to the chat itself. Now, granted, if we were only looking for awareness, well, we could have said, woohoo, job well done, and we definitely achieved that. But we were looking for a whole lot more out of the time that we were spending, the amount of time I said the team was putting into this chat. And when we looked at the results, we just couldn't justify maintaining it any further. So for you, I would really challenge you to align your goals, those objectives, with expectations and also actual results. Be very, very honest with yourself about how much time and effort you're putting into something and what those true results are for your business, because shiny object syndrome, it is a real thing, guys. It is truly killing companies when you bounce around from thing to thing, from idea to the next, because it sounds fun or it looks exciting, but you're not actually tracking how important or how valuable it is to your business. So I suggest that you track and measure all of these important actionable metrics that we just talked about every day and every week, because if not, what ends up happening is your weeks or months down the road before you truly see, wow, oh my gosh, we have spent a whole lot of time on something that just wasn't worth our time or our while. And now you've got to unwind all that you've done. Or unfortunately, you see that you can't just kill something right out of the gate because it's impacting so many other things. So don't do that. Actually spend the time in your data and study that. Pay attention to how it's impacting your bottom line so that you don't have to get that far down the road and realize that those things should have been discontinued a whole lot earlier. Now, one last thing to consider is the tools that you're going to use within the tracking and measuring of all of your social media results, because it's not just about the return on investment. It's also the return on your time. And using the right tools means you're going to spend less time while getting a bigger return on your investment, because I know that none of us have an infinite amount of time. So one of my favorites, one of my go-to tools is Simply Measured, and it provides all of that data so you can run reports on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and see what is actually making a dent, what is working for you, and what campaigns need some adjustment. Another great tool I mentioned previously is Google Analytics. With Google Analytics, you can set up goals right within your dashboard that then you and your team have access to. We also, as a team, have put together a social media analytics or metrics dashboard, and I'm going to share that with you in the show notes, so you can go ahead and just download that. You can plug in all of your data, but it'll show you exactly what we are tracking and measuring on a daily basis, and you'll find that within the resources on the blog post. And to download that, just go to RebekahRadice.com/episode 07. This is episode 7. That's all you have to remember, and you can find that and download it. So to recap, I don't think there's any doubt at this point that social media marketing, it can help you achieve great success within your business, but you're never going to know what's working and what's not until you track and measure your social media efforts. So hopefully with today's episode, you're a little bit clearer. You have a little bit better idea on where to start. And one more resource for you, if you haven't already downloaded your copy of my daily social media checklist, you can also find that within the show notes at RebekahRadice.com/episode 07. Just another great way for you to focus your energy and attention on the right actions every single day. And as always, if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on or answer in an upcoming show, go ahead and email my team at marketing@RebekahRadice.com. Until next time, get out there and make data your best friend. See you next week.